In September 2025, something incredible happened. A country's government didn't just stumble, it completely collapsed. And it wasn't brought down by a military coup or some old political rival. Nope. It was toppled by a force that the people in power had ignored for way too long, its own youth. This is the wild story of how Nepal's Gen Z pulled off one of the fastest political overthrows we've seen in a long, long time.
76. Before we dive into the how and the why, I just want you to remember that number. 76 people died. That's the real human cost of this story.
And the aftermath was just total chaos. We're talking about the nation's parliament, its Supreme Court, even the Prime Minister's home, all of them set on fire. So the big question is, how on earth does a protest escalate so fast that it ends with the government literally in ashes and the army taking over the streets?
To really get what happened, you have to understand just how fast this all went down. This wasn't some slow-burning revolution. It was a straight-up explosion. 5 days. Think about that. That's all it took. A movement that was born from hashtags and online chat rooms did what decades of normal politics never could. It started with a few angry posts online and ended with the Prime Minister basically running for his life. So, how? How did this happen?
Well, the thing that officially kicked off the protests seems kind of simple on the surface. But the truth is, the fuel for this fire had been piling up for years. The whole country was like a digital tinderbox, just waiting for a single spark.
And here it is. This was the spark. On September 4th, the government decided to ban a whole bunch of social media sites. Facebook, YouTube, X, you name it. For young Nepalis, this wasn't just some minor inconvenience. It was like the government was trying to silence their entire generation. It was the last straw.
But look, this was never really just about a social media ban. That was just the tip of the iceberg. The real anger came from way deeper. We're talking about out-of-control corruption, youth unemployment hitting over 22%, and an economy where the average person makes less than $1,400 a year. And to make it all worse, there was this viral hashtag #NepoBaby trend, where kids of the political elite were showing off their insane wealth on the exact same platforms the government was trying to shut down. The hypocrisy was just staggering.
And at the heart of it all was this massive disconnect. On one side, you have this ruling class, average age of 70, who've been in power since the 90s. And on the other, you have the actual population, where the median age is just 25. I mean, you've got a whole generation born with smartphones in their hands, being governed by people who just don't get their world at all.
Okay, so with all that in mind, let's look at how this whole powder keg finally went off. The timeline of what happened over just 48 hours is, well, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It all kicked off peacefully on the morning of September 8th. You had thousands of students, a lot of them still in their school uniforms, just gathering to protest. But right around lunchtime, things took a really dark turn. Security forces opened fire with live rounds. By that evening, 19 protesters were dead. The very next morning, the Prime Minister resigned. But it was too late. The anger was just unstoppable. And by the afternoon, the major symbols of the government were up in flames.
And if you want to understand just how intense the state's response was, just look at this number. 13,182. That's how many rounds of ammunition the police fired in just 2 days. So, breaking that down, you see over 6,000 tear gas shells, almost 2,000 rubber bullets, but here's the number that's just shocking. 2,642 live bullets fired into crowds. Forensic reports later showed that most of the people who were shot were hit above the waist, which is a massive violation of international rules for crowd control.
So, with the government completely gone, a power vacuum opened up. And into that void stepped something brand new. A political experiment powered by the very same tech the old guard tried to shut down.
And this was the million-dollar question in Nepal. The Prime Minister's gone, Parliament is toast, there's no official plan for what to do next. So who steps up? Who gets to decide? Believe it or not, the answer came from a gaming app. A Discord server with more than 100,000 members basically turned into a virtual town hall. They debated potential candidates, they held an open online poll, and they ended up nominating a former Chief Justice, Sushila Karki, to lead a temporary government. It was a world first, for sure. But, it also opened up a whole new can of worms about things like digital security and whether an online poll can really represent a whole country.
Al Jazeera put it perfectly. They called it a revolutionary counter to the traditional practice of politicians choosing leaders behind closed doors. I mean, for a generation that was completely fed up with backroom deals and zero transparency, this was their answer. A radical, kind of crazy experiment in digital democracy.
But let's be real, the road ahead for this new interim government is going to be tough. I mean, look at their to-do list. They have to organize brand new elections, fix the voter lists so young people can actually vote, investigate all the corruption and violence that started this whole thing. Oh, and also, try to fix a completely broken economy. All of that while fighting off the old political parties who are desperate to get back in power. No big deal, right?
What happened in Nepal was chaotic, it was violent, and it was tragic. But it also showed the incredible power of a generation that's digitally connected and just refuses to accept business as usual. You have to wonder, is what happened in Kathmandu just a one-off story? Or did we just watch Gen Z write a whole new playbook for how to make political change happen?